Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another video at my YouTube channel and blog. Today I'm using two brand new products from Simon Says Stamp. I'm using the stained glass greeting stamp set and the Christmas star stencil. I'm going to start out with the stencil first, and I'm going to be creating two different backgrounds using this stencil, and both have different types of embossing. This first one, I'm using some Schoolhouse red cardstock that I've cut down to a standard size card. It's actually just a little bit smaller than a standard card. And I'm going to be working on top of a non-stick slick surface. This is the Tonic Easy Clean Matte. And then I've taken the Christmas star stencil and I've taped it with some blue painter's tape to that red cardstock. This is going to hold the stencil in place without having any tape covering up those sections of the cardstock. So this is a really great way to have that stencil and have it stay in place, but not have gaps in what you're adding on top of the stencil. I'm using some garnet red glimmer paste from Nuvo, and I'm going to use a palette knife and just smear this all over the front of this cardstock. I'm making sure that I'm using really slow movements. I don't want to do anything really fast or jerky and possibly pull up this stencil because it's not taped down on the left side. So I'm making sure that as I bring that paste over to the other side of the cardstock that I'm pulling in from the center. I want to make sure I'm not introducing any opportunities for the stencil to gap or pull up away from the surface of the cardstock. This is actually a really nice shimmer or glitter paste, and I have it in a few different colors, and I really, really love it, especially with this red on red tone that I've got going here. You want to clean off your tools fairly quickly. If you don't want to work super quick like this, you could have a bowl of water nearby and just drop that palette knife into it. You could also place the stencil directly into that water as well. When it comes to cleaning the stencil, I do have a tip for you guys. The way I clean all of my stencils, whether I've used ink on top of them or shimmer paste like this or regular embossing paste, I take it to a sink, and I just use my regular hall bathroom for this, and then I have a nail brush. It looks like a really small hairbrush, and it has stiff bristles, and I just hold the stencil in my left hand and I gently brush in circular motions over that stencil, and it takes off everything off the surface. It's super quick and easy, and I'll link to a nail brush like I use at home. I'll link that in the supply section below. So now I'm on to the second background. I've just set that red glittery one to the side to dry, and this time I'm going to do some heat embossing. And I did try this technique with a couple different methods, and this was my favorite, which is to apply some clear embossing ink. This is clear embossing ink from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm applying that with a mini round blending tool in pouncing motions, just pouncing up and down onto the stencil. I found that this was the easiest way and the most accurate way to get a really good result. I did try taking my ink pad directly to the stencil, and I wasn't really able to get a nice even impression that way. It was just a little bit easier using the foam tool. So now I'm shaking on some antique gold embossing powder from Simon, and this is a really pretty gold shade. It's almost like a champagne gold shade. It's not like a really yellow gold, and I really particularly love it when it's paired with red, because sometimes that more kind of brassy red, or I'm sorry, brassy gold, it can kind of change the entire tone of what you're doing, and I really love this antique gold shade. In fact, I'm going to use it quite a bit on today's cards. Using my heat tool just to heat set this until it's smooth and melted, and it definitely changes color when it's melted, so you'll know when it's heated up enough. You can see how beautiful that is, and what a great impression I got by using that foam tool for the application of the clear ink. I used my embossing powder over a coffee filter, and I just was able to funnel that back into the jar. So now I'm going to work on the sentiment areas for the cards. I've taken some more red cardstock. This is just the other half of that cardstock that I cut down earlier. And I'm using the stained glass greeting stamp set that I showed at the beginning of the video. And I'm going to be stamping and embossing this. And I want to prep my cardstock here with the anti-static powder tool because I want to make sure I don't have embossing powder sticking to areas where I don't want it. I'm going to use that same clear embossing ink that I used before from Simon, and then I'll just close my Misty door down and stamp that onto the Schoolhouse red cardstock. I'm going to sprinkle on some more of that antique gold embossing powder. This is a really fine detailed embossing powder, so it works great for all of those small words on that line, that top line. I'll use my heat tool just to heat set that until it's smooth and melted. And then I took my fingers and just wiped off whatever was remaining from that anti-static powder. I'm now taking the wine red marker. This is a Zig Clean Color Real Brush marker. And you could use any marker for this except for Copics or any other alcohol markers. I would say avoid those because it can eat away at the embossing powder and then it can ruin the tip of your marker. So any marker except for alcohol markers will work for this. So I'm cutting that down so it's a more narrow strip. And I'm going to cut it down even more than that in a minute. I then also trimmed down my gold embossed piece so that it is 3 3/4 wide by 5 inches tall. This is going to give me a nice wide white border around my card once I mount it on my card base. Speaking of my card base, I scored that at 5.5 to create a top folding card. And the cardstock I'm using today is Neenah Classic Crest Solar White in the 110-pound version. Put some foam adhesive on the back of my gold embossed piece and then adhered that down onto the card base. I then took that red strip. I'm going to line up my card using my grid mat here, and that gives me a nice reference for making sure I get this on here straight. I'll press that down, and then this first card is complete. I love how shiny it is, and that gold shade is amazing. So after my red piece had a chance to dry, I decided to move on and create the greeting area for this one as well. This time I'm taking the Joy stamp from the Stained Glass Greetings, and I'm stamping that onto some vellum. I'm using that same clear embossing ink so that I can make it gold once again, and I'm using the antique gold embossing powder. I'll just shake that off and make sure I have a nice clean impression. Then heat set that with my heat tool. And then I trimmed it down so that it was lots smaller than that vellum piece there. And I'm actually going to add a little bit of a gold edge. This is going to give me a place to put some adhesive to adhere this vellum piece onto my card. So I'm masking off just that side of the vellum piece, and I'll press that down into that embossing ink. And by the way, that white tape is just some Post-it tape. I'll also have that linked down in the supplies. I'm going to dip this narrow strip into my jar of embossing powder, and then I'll use my heat tool to heat set that. And like I said before, this is just to give me an area where I can put some adhesive because vellum, because it is translucent, it will show any adhesive underneath. I'm creating another card base. This one's going to be a side folding card, and then I'm adhering my red glitter piece onto the white cardstock. And this one doesn't have quite as big of a white border. This finished piece was actually 4 inches tall by 5 1/4 wide. So I press that down onto my card base, and then I put a little narrow strip of foam tape right behind that gold edge that I embossed. I'm going to press this down onto the right edge of my card, and that finishes the card for today as well. So I've got 2 cards. This post and video is actually part of a blog hop celebrating the newest release from Simon Says Stamp. This is part of their holiday release, and this is actually day 2 of blog hops. So there's today's inspiration, and you can also check out the inspiration from yesterday as well. Make sure you head over to my blog to see all the supplies that I've used, and thank you so much for watching. I will catch you guys in another video very soon.